President will open the Congress in 5 minutes. Please take your seats. Please take your seats. Please take your seats. We are ready to start. Can we close the doors?
Dear delegates, ISU Honorary President, Mr. Chiquanta, ISU Honorary Members, Office Holders, staff, guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure for me to welcome you all here at this 57th ISU Congress in Seville. Most of you attended previous ISU Congresses. However, I'm very much pleased also to see many new faces. We came from all over the world to discuss important matters for our beloved sport here in Seville. On behalf of all attendees, I would like to thank the Royal Spanish Ice Sports Federation very much for their great hospitality. We have a very busy week ahead of us, but I hope that everybody also can enjoy the beautiful city of Seville and the Spanish culture. For the first time, the ISU Congress is also available as a live stream on the ISU YouTube channel. Viewers all over the world will be able to follow this ISU Congress. At the beginning of this Congress, I wish to honor the memory of great friends of the ISU who are no longer with us. In this respect, I would like to mention the ISU Honorary Vice President, Mr. Lawrence Demi, ISU Honorary Member Donald Gilchrist. We pay tribute to their devoted service to the ISU and skating. Therefore, I kindly ask everyone to please rise for a moment of silence to remember them and all other skating friends that passed away and who we will remember with affection. Thank you very much. As ISU family, we want to promote and to develop our beautiful and exciting sport across all levels and all disciplines: figure skating, speed skating, short track speed skating, and synchronized skating. In view of this mission, I would like to wish you all a very successful 57th ISU Congress. Let's have a fruitful and respectful exchange of thoughts and ideas. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, let's start now, and hereby I declare the 57th ISU Congress here in Seville opened. Then we move to item number 2, the Director General, Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. President. Item number 2, verification that Congress has been duly convened according to the Constitution. We have sent you and we have published circular letter number 617, and we did this on July 17, 2017, which means in due time and in accordance with Article 30, paragraph 1 of the Constitution. Unless there are any objections, I believe that confirms that the Congress has been duly convened. Any objection? No objection. The point has been confirmed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then we move to item number 3, election of a secretary to record the minutes of the Congress meetings. I would like to propose Mr. Schmidt, the Director General. You agree? Congratulations, Mr. Schmidt.
I'm honored.
We move to item number 4, the Director General.
Item number 4, verification of the qualifications of the representatives and their right to vote through circulation of a list of representatives among Congress delegates and subsequent confirmation by the Congress. Now we have distributed the latest list this morning. You have it on your tables. As you can see, as of June 3, 2018, 5 o'clock yesterday, there are 264 delegates announced. Now, do you have any comment, objection on the names you see? No objections, so the list is approved. Then we move to the item number 4.2, electronic roll call of ISU members to establish the presence of ISU members and corresponding majorities. In this regard, I would like to inform you that at the Council meeting yesterday, the Council accepted Ireland speed skating as a full ISU member. So congratulations to Ireland speed skating. The Council also accepted Brazil speed skating as a provisional members. So they have been added as a provisional member speed skating. They're already a full member figure skating. This is for your information. Now we'll just check if everybody is already here. We have been informed that speed skating, Belgium speed skating and Finland speed skating will be late. So normally, if everybody else is here, we will have 90 ISU members present from 73 countries, and as of today we have 120 votes. If the two missing delegations will arrive, we will have 122 votes. So to double check if everybody is here, I propose we do a roll call by electronic vote. The delegates have this voting pad. Most of you already know. So what we do now is only to push one and valid. And then you see on your display value 1 for those having 1 vote, or value equal 2 for those having 2 votes. So the roll call vote is open. So I ask everybody to push 1 valid, nothing else. 1 valid, and check your display whether you see whether it says value equal 1 or value equal 2. So please do that now. Please vote now. If you have done so, you should see on your display value equal 1 or value equal 2, depending on the votes you have. Can you see if everybody voted? If not, we have a look who would not have voted or who is definitely here. So apparently those members are either not here or didn't vote properly. Armenia Figure, where is Armenia Figure? Not here? Not yet here. Belgium speed, we said they're late. Finland speed, we know they're late. Hong Kong, not yet here. Indonesia, they're there. Just arrived, so that makes sense. Moldova, figure. Did you vote or? Anyway, you're here. My colleagues will double check what happened. Monaco, figure. Not yet here. And Spain. Just arrived. I understand you had a long way. Anyway, it confirms that either some delegates are not yet in, and some are coming late. So as of this moment, we don't yet have Armenia, Belgium, Finland, Hong Kong. Hong Kong is here? Just came. And Monaco is still not here, no? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 missing, so we have today 118 votes. Hopefully, soon we will have 122 votes, latest by the elections. So I think this can conclude the roll call. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Then we move on to item number 5, the election of 2 scrutineers of the minutes of the Congress. I would like to propose Mrs. Marie Lungmark and Mr. Sergio Anesi. You agree? Unanimously accepted. Then item number 6, election of a drafting committee consisting of at least 3 members to draft the final text of the proposals adopted concerning the Constitution, the procedural provisions and the general regulations. I would like to propose the President, the 2 Vice Presidents, the 2 legal advisors, the Director General and Mrs. St. Peter. You agree? Unanimously accepted. Then I move on to item number 7, approval of the agenda. You agree with the agenda as presented? Thank you very much. Then I move to item number 8, approval of the minutes of the previous Congress. Yeah, regarding the approval of the agenda, including the urgent matters. If you want to speak, please use the micro. Please use the micro if you want to speak. And mention your name, please, and the Federation.
Good morning. Boris Chait, Israel. I would like to point out the urgent matter or urgent proposal number 5, the age of the skaters, and I would like to propose to take it out of the urgent matters and actually to vote if to have it on agenda altogether. Do you need a reason?
Urgent matter number 5.
Number 5, right. The age limit.
You want to delete as urgent matter?
Exactly.
Obviously, you have the right to ask for this, and to confirm that it remains on the agenda, we need 4/5 majority. And maybe the best is we just have a vote on this, and if 4/5 majority is established, it will be on the agenda. If not, it will not be on the agenda. That's according to the Constitution. There's somebody else who wants to speak? Ms. Armstrong?
Good morning. Deborah Armstrong, Canada Figure. We would like to propose that urgent item number 6 be removed from the agenda for fulsome discussion on the floor.
So now we have two motions. One is not to include urgent proposal 5, and the other one, urgent proposal 6. Now, to establish 4/5 by show of hands might be a little tricky. So, if we could prepare a vote by electronic, first on urgent matter number 5. We just let the operators prepare the voting. Okay. Now please, the matter is whether you accept that urgent matter number 5 gets into the agenda, yes or no. The Council so far has always supported to include all urgent matters to be in the agenda. This was proposed by the President, but we had a motion from Israel that this should not be the case. And that's why I ask you, if you agree that it should stay on the agenda, you vote yes. If you are against, you vote no. If you, for whatever reason, don't know, you put abstain. So please open the vote. The vote is open. Please vote 1 valid, 2 valid, or 3 valid. Has everybody voted? Okay, can you close the vote? And show us the result, please. So we do not have a 4/5 majority, meaning 63 again in favor, 39 against, and 15 abstains. So that doesn't reach the 4/5 majority of 95. Can we show who the detail of who voted how? So these are the yes votes. Page 1. Don't know if there's a page 2. Yes. Then the no votes. And abstain. Okay, so urgent matter number 5 is not on the agenda, is ejected from the agenda, or not even accepted the agenda, better. Now we do the same for urgent proposal number 6. Sorry? No. Okay. We check now whether urgent proposal number 6 should go into the agenda, yes or no. So the same procedure. If you think yes, it should go on the agenda, you vote yes. If not, you vote no. If you don't know or you don't care, abstain. So please open the vote. Please vote now, 1 valid, 2 valid, or 3 valid. Has everybody voted? Not yet. Please vote 1 yes, push valid, 1 and valid, 2 valid, or 3 valid. Can you close the vote, please? Shows the result. Again, there is not a 4/5 majority, meaning with 66 yes, 33 no, and 16 abstention. The 4/5 majority of 93 vote is not reached. Therefore, urgent proposal number 6 will not be on the agenda. Can we see the detail? Page 2. No votes and abstain. Thank you. So this concludes the approval of the agenda, which is accepted with the exception of urgent proposal 5 and 6. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then we move on to agenda number 8, approval of the minutes of the previous Congress. We have sent to you the minutes. We have not received written remarks. So if there are no other remarks here, then we can approve the minutes of the previous Congress. You agree? The minutes are approved. Then we move on to item number 9, the biennial report of the President. Dear delegates, again, ISU Honorary President, Mr. Sequanta, the honorary members, all of you, it's always very special and very inspiring to see so many skating nations from all over the world in one room, people of different generations, different cultures. However, the passion for ice skating unites us all. And I think we all believe that ice skating is the most beautiful and most exciting sport in the world. As ISU, we want to promote and to develop our beloved sport worldwide across all levels and all disciplines of figure skating, speed skating, short track speed skating, and synchronized skating. In this respect, over the past 2 years, we have worked hard, very hard, to make significant progress. We started many new initiatives and projects. And although it does take time to see the benefits of everything, we can be proud of the achieved results in such a short time. And when I say we, I would like to underline the entire ISU family. It's really teamwork. Therefore, I wish to express my deepest gratitude for the tremendous efforts of all of you, the ISU members, the ISU office holders, the staff, the skaters, the coaches, and the officials. And I'm also very much pleased with the close cooperation we have with our commercial partners, the IOC, and the other winter sport federations. I would like to summarize the most significant developments and milestones of the past 2 years. The ISU Vice Presidents will report on the specifics of each discipline during the branch sessions. First development, the ISU has the fundamental role of supporting its members and developing ice skating worldwide. After the 2016 elections, our first milestone was to establish a development commission and a new and result-oriented development program. The program aims to increase the quantity and the quality of skaters, coaches and officials worldwide, and to increase the number of ISU members able to develop skaters who are competitive at ISU events and at the games. Several projects have seen the light of day through the new program, and while continuing to support traditional successful projects and competitions, we are focusing on new areas and extending our global reach. New initiatives include creating an ISU International Education Program for skating coaches, traveling top coaches, implementing e-learning, establishing ISU Centers of Excellence, supporting the post-competitive careers of skaters, and encouraging and assisting ISU members to participate in developing activities. Susanna Racamo, the coordinator of the Development Commission, will further describe the development policy and requirements and achievements. Then marketing and promotion. Our shared mission is that we continue to captivate the current generation and new generations with ice skating. A key question we all need to think about is how we can further increase the experience for fans in the stadium, on TV and online. The collaboration with members and commercial partners is vital in this respect. The main developments over the past 2 years are as follows. First, a new fan-centric digital strategy. We are creating more content for fans and showcasing the skaters and their stories. The content is published on the new ISU website and the social media channels. In Dubrovnik, I promised that I would go the extra mile to have new commercial agreements. And I can assure you, literally, I went the extra mile to speak with companies. In the area of TV rights and advertising rights, the revenues and concluded agreements confirmed a stable situation. However, the conclusion of sponsorship agreements worldwide, not only regarding the ISU, is becoming more difficult with an increasingly competitive market. Regarding the TV rights agreements, we extended the contracts with TV Asahi, Fuji TV and Ice Network, and other agreements are still ongoing. We also strengthened the cooperation with the Olympic Channel to create new content and to reach wider demographics. Marketing and advertising agreements and figure skating, we extended the contract with IMG, and the speed skating we choose for a new partner with the objective to strengthen the marketing of events. We reached an agreement with the House of Sports for ISU speed skating events. For short track, we were not able yet to finalize a deal with a new partner. Title sponsorship, we didn't find a new speed skating title sponsor yet. However, there are some leads in the pipeline. In short track, we signed a title sponsor agreement with Audi for the World Cup season 2017-18, and negotiations are going on to continue this partnership over several seasons. I consider the further progress in the field of marketing and promotion as one of the top priorities in the next years. For example, we absolutely need to continue working on the attractiveness of the calendar and the event formats, event presentation and the collaboration with members and the event organizers. Then I come to good governance. The ISU has established a good reputation and is committed to demonstrating the highest standards of responsible business. Following an independent governance assessment of the international federations in 2017, the ISU has the second best moderated score of the winter sport federations. And we are at the top end of the middle group in comparison with the summer federations. An indicated area for improvement includes environmental and social responsibility policy and measures. We have focused on the following items: implementing recommendations to improve sustainability at the ISU events, the Secretariat and other ISU activities. Establishing the ISU Athletes Commission, collaborating with Special Olympics, improving the collaboration between ISU bodies, maintaining fair competitions and protect vital principles such as integrity, safety and honesty. Exceptional events. In the light of the McLaren and Schmidt reports, the Olympic movement, including the ISU, has faced very complicated matters. The ISU firmly maintains its position that the protection of clean athletes and the fight against doping are of the highest priority. We have worked on update regulations, prevention and education. An example is the Pure ISU, Pure as Ice program. The ISU continues to face two ongoing, complex and very costly legal cases. The Pechstein case and the decision of the European Commission regarding the ISU eligibility rules. The legal advisors will report about these cases in more detail later today. Then I come to the 2018 Olympic Winter Games, which was a very memorable event in the past 2 years. And this was, of course, the Olympic Games in the Republic of Korea. The best skaters lived their dream and inspired many children and adults around the world with their performances and stories. Furthermore, the Games showed the power of sport and how it can build bridges between society. Together with the IOC and organizing committee, the ISU has worked extremely hard to ensure successful Olympics. We can be really satisfied and proud that we had very exciting and very well attended competitions in all ISU disciplines. We just received the IOC report with collected data. It provides an analysis covering all relevant areas to assess the popularity of a sport during the Games. Indicators are related to television, digital media, general public, spectators and press. And this report shows the scores of our sport and disciplines and makes a comparison with the scores of other winter sport. And I'm very pleased to say that all our disciplines scored really very well in all areas. I would like to give you two examples. First off, the viewer hours on TV worldwide. This indicator takes into account both the program duration and the audience level. For example, a 2-hour skating program with an audience of 4 million will get 8 million hours viewed. At the sports level, ice skating achieves the highest score of all 7 winter sports. If you look at the 15 disciplines of the Games, figure skating has the highest score. Speed skating and short track are also at the top end. And secondly, the favorite sports among youth worldwide. At the sports level, ice skating achieves again the highest score of all winter sports on this indicator with a 7.18. And at the discipline level, figure skating has the highest score, and also speed skating and short track are at the top end compared to disciplines in other winter sports. Then I come to the financial status. In the years 2016 and 17, the ISU has a better than expected profit in total 8.7 million Swiss francs. This profit will be reinvested during the budget period 2018-20 and will justify the budget losses to satisfy the ever-increasing needs of funding ISU activities. This new budget includes increases in the development support, the prize money for athletes, and in the area of PR, marketing and event presentation with indirect contributions to ISU events. The ISU Treasurer and Director General will report on the financial situation in more detail later today. Dear delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to conclude. However, before I conclude, I would like to refer to one other special event. In 2017, we all celebrated the 125th anniversary of the ISU. In July 1892, the first ISU Congress was held. Ice skating has come a long way since then. The ISU is in a good shape, in a very good shape, but there are several challenges ahead. We must continue to further innovate in order to be successful in the future. Therefore, let's act in this spirit during this 57th ISU Congress. Let's move forward together. Thank you very much. Then we now move to agenda item number 10, the biannual report by the coordinator of the Development Commission, Ms. Rakomo.
Believe it or not, we tried this out. So now it's there. Will it come also here? Okay, great. So, dear President, dear members, dear friends, so I'm here to Sorry. So I'm here to present what the development, ISU development is, a little bit report what we've done, and also take a little glimpse forward. But I first thought that we start with showing what development is. So here's a project recently done in Ukraine, and it's for speed skating branch. The little kids getting into the mood of skating. Here my colleague Gildo Gemser is showing how to do it. So our aim is to help you, the members, to help your skaters, your coaches, and your officials to improve, to progress. The development has actually two big means. What we are trying to do is to increase the number of skaters and improve the quality. And we also are there to increase the number of members. And we'll be mostly, at this point, concentrating on the first bullet here. The Communication 2052 is actually our guideline, what we do, and you find our kind of task there. There are parts that the Council is doing, parts that the Development Commission is doing. And I'm chairing the Development Commission with my colleagues, Gildo Kempser from Netherlands and Tatsuro Matsumura from Japan. We cover all the, both branches and all the disciplines. We work together constantly. We are in contact mostly virtually, but we collaborate with the sport directors, with the technical committees, with the council, with the ISU office, and trying to find the ways to improve skating around the globe. This commission started in 2016, end of the year. So we've been there now a little bit over 1 year, so 1.5 years. And we have a lot of things that we're looking forward to putting in place. But what we didn't know really what you needed. That's why in conference during the 2017 World Championships in Rotterdam for short track, so the speed skating brands, and in Helsinki for the figure skating brands, we asked you, the members, what do you need? What's the biggest need for your development? What do you need from the Development Commission? And the outcome was that you needed coaches' education. More than 90% of the results was about coaches' education. So that's why we have taken the focus to improve coaches' education. So that's our priority of all the projects that we've been supporting. Like coaches helps and they change the lives of the skaters. They also bridge many generations, so they last. So we put our efforts to improving the coaches. We also putting efforts on online learning because we are 3 people. We need to cover the whole ISU members, the whole globe. So that's why we started to think like, how can we do that? And taking the modern technology into help, we can reach better everybody. So here, for example, is a Brazil project, the lower picture, giving a webinar, a part of their project, which is actually starting now in July, but they already kind of get the preliminary work done through webinars. But this is one of our kind of a goal is to gain better reach to whole globe. And we've been starting projects now both in Asia and like this Brazil project, so in South America. And I think one thing for all of you is that everybody can apply. And here also, during this Congress, we have an appointment possibility, so please do come and grab our sleeves and talk about your needs. Well, let's look a little bit of numbers. So the past 2 years, so council projects are here from 2016. The council projects are such projects that are well established. They happen yearly, and they have a very kind of a long-lasting tradition. They impact almost everybody of you. Our projects in Development Commission is actually your projects, the members' development projects. And it's a little bit over $1 million, $1,200,000, $1,300,000 what we have been putting in the last 2 years, both years, to your projects. And this is how they've been divided. So we try to get the more kind of equal for everybody, all disciplines, projects to come. But you can find these numbers, I'm going quickly here, but they are all in the reportings, what you have gained. So you can look at them and come back to that. So I go more to the future. But before that, I kind of have this slide just to kind of, I was looking at, so who have been involved in the development activities, and it is actually, I think it was 4 members who wasn't part of some of the activities in the past 2 years. Well, here are some example projects. This is from Changchun, competition that was also with the coaches' education. So that's something what we are looking at, is to extend when people are gathering. So how can we use that momentum to also educate the coaches? And now we have been expanding. So like I said, the Brazil, we had now just last month in Australia a novice competition with the seminar with top coaches. For example, Brian Orser was there for over 50 coaches in that area. And there's several projects being now in Asia as well. Southeast Asia is starting up and developing. There's going to be, during the Asian Trophy, a coaches seminar in figure skating, and there's been 6 seminars in Asia this past year in Asia. So we are kind of starting to get from Europe the further on. Here's another example project. I think this is a pretty very fine project, transition program from inline skating to ice, and I think this is almost a miracle what happened. Here is the Erin Jackson taking the first steps here on ice. She's an inline skater, and 4 months later she qualifies for Olympics in speed skating. So just doing the transition, even if it looks hard in beginning, but only 4 months, and then she skated in Pyeongchang. So here's a little bit. She really can skate, you can see, but she then changed over to, and here's the qualification race where she gets the place at the Olympics. So this is also the transition program actually was very effective. 5 athletes altogether got into the Olympics through this program. So from inline skating to speed skating. There's another from Ostrava, 4-year projects with top coaches, both off ice and on ice. Very often in the projects like this, we combine the good coaches and also the past champions, showing the new generation, the coaches, how to do. And here this project also was mainly for coaches to how do you coach? 4-year projects with how do you coach? How do you improve the athletes? How do you find your own philosophy of coaching? Oops, I have something in my laptop that just ignore it. Then here is also an example project from a level 2 program for coaches education. So what we've been doing is have started to structure the coaches education in the levels. And here is one example of getting the materials that we then can share with others. Combining resources. For example, there was now in May a seminar combining ice dance and single skating. So using the same resources, same time, reducing the cost. Also, we introduced mentoring, so bridging the seminars. So how do you, when after one seminar to the next, maybe you're doing after a year, what happens between? So how can we improve when the people are not seeing each other? We started, webinars, but we started also live streaming. We live streamed from the Milan Worlds like annual meeting there for ice dance. We did also this Healthy Skaters project. But we also started this YouTube channel where you can find all these webinars from the past. Also, speed skating started their webinars already in last November, and this is to be continued. The next one is from Frankfurt. Well, what's coming up? So big thing on our agenda is education online. We are on the process of signing up with the learning management system and hiring an e-learning coordinator to take care of all the material to structure that. Like I said, the structuring coaches education, we are wanting to kind of understand and put that into a kind of a grid. How do the coaches' development path goes? And we are at the moment structuring that using you, the members, in helping us. So we have from both branches 2 focus groups, 2 project teams who are at the moment hands-on doing this, and in the constant collaboration also between the branches. So we are creating for ISU a kind of a path for coaches education. And traveling coaches pilot, it's a pilot that just the deadline was this week, and we got 15 applications. We have 4 possibilities to give our assistant for that at the moment, but this is a pilot. We were really happy of the quality of the applications, and we come back to that very soon with you. But here's also a little glimpse of this e-learning platform, how it could look. So here is kind of it's our looks. You can bring different materials here. This is how do you can link here the websites. You can link, here's the World Cup schedule. You can put learning pads here. This is now also only just a quickly done dummy, but this is so you can make a learning pad. You can put there different kind of materials, download them, say when you've done this, put some videos there, and make a kind of a order where you want to kind of lead the participants. You can have quizzes here, exams, and what we are looking for example, for the officials is to do the reauthorization through this platform so that the people don't need to travel, but they can actually do it, their examinations online. So this is in very short kind of what we are working on, and we really want to work with you together, so just approach us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Rakamo. Then we move on to item number 11, report by the Treasurer and Director General. Mr. Linder.
Yes, this one. How can go forward? It's coming. Yeah, it's coming. Which is forward and which is backward? This is forward. Oh wait, until it's coming. We try it? Yeah. Dear delegates, dear honorary members, the Treasurer and Director General report consists two parts. One part is about the two past seasons, 2016 and 2017. And the second part is the future, the budget 2018 until 2020. we will share this part between Director General and myself. I have the possibility to speak about the good news and the Director General about the bad news. This presentation is a summary only. For details, please refer to the Financial Report 2016 and 17 and the ISU Budget Proposal 2018 to 2020. Swiss accounting standards. The structure of the financial statements is in line with the Swiss accounting standards and remains the same as the structure introduced in 2016. In particular, but not limited to the following. In the income statements, the financial incomes and expenses are reported separately from the operating results. So we can see which is the result for the operating and the income statement differently from the past years before. We have an inclusion of an annual report, including 6 mandatory topics. We have an inclusion of a cash flow statement, and we have the presence at the Congress of the Auditor, is Mr. Gregor Weber, which is on the right side. Mr. Weber, yes, he's present. The operating incomes. In 2016 and 17, you can see we have from the TV media income between 17 million to 19.8 million. Advertising, 7.3 million to 7.6 million. Various, 0.7 million to 7.5 million. And the Olympic Winter Games, 9 million for each year. This is from the Sochi Olympic Games, not from this year. And the Olympic Winter Games income we share for 3 seasons. So this is a 4th. Then the contribution and prize money to the ISU championships and other ISU events. The contribution for championships was 11.1 million to 10.7 million. Others 3.7 to 3.5 million. Total contribution 14.8 million to 14.2 million. The prize money for championships was 2.2 million to 2 million. Other various events 2.6 million to 2.6 million. And total prize money was 4.8 million to 4.6 million. Here about the development program, as we heard just before. Development project was in 2016, 1.8 million to 1.6 million. The council projects, 3.2 million to 3.2 million. This includes the Junior Grand Prix of Figure Skating, the Junior World Cup Speed Skating, the Short Track Series, the Nubia Star and Star Class, the Worldwide Figure Skating Seminars, e-learning and the new Centers of Excellence. The contributions to Member Federation was 2.7 million to 2.8 million, in total for both years 7.7 million. Financial statement, other operation expenses, ISU Office Building and ISU Secretariat. Other operating expenses was 6.2 million to 6.9 million. This was the congresses, office holder meeting, travel, other expenses and anti-doping. For the office building in Lausanne, we have 0.2 million for each year, and the ISU Secretariat 2.6 million to 3 million. In total, 9 million in 2016 and 10.1 million in 2017. As you can see here, the operating result. The incomes are in 2016 34 million and in 2017 37 million. The operating expenses 36 million, 36.2 million, and 36.6 million. So the operating result was in 2016 negative 2.2 million, and in 2017 positive 0.4 million. Now the financial statements. Here the financial incomes. This is the interest from our equity. The financial income is in 2016 6.9 million and 5.9 million in 2017. The expenses remains in 2 years for 1.1 million. At the total, we have 5.8 million net and 4.8 million in 2017. As overall, the profit of the year, you can see the operating result, as I spoke before, in 2016 was minus 2.2 million and 0.4 million for 2017. Financial incomes, 5.8 million and 4.8 million. Other items, minus 0.2 and plus 2. This comes from the currency change of Swiss francs against dollar and euros. The profit of the year in 2016 was 3.4 million and 5.4 million in 2017. Please keep in your mind this total of the profit from 8.8 million. We are coming later on that. The equity which we wish to remain was in 2015 255 million, in 2016 258.3 million, and in 2017 263.8 million. Do you have any questions? The discharge of the Council to be taken under agenda item number 15 at the end of the Congress. Now I give for the negative part the word to Freddy Schmidt. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Linder. The floor is for Mr. Schmidt, Director General.
Thank you very much. Now we earn the money, we spend it, and I'm going to explain a little bit how we are going to spend it. As Uli said, the incomes were better than expected for 2016 and 17. And that's why this justifies and allows to budget losses. Normally we don't like to budget losses, but under these circumstances, and since we do not want to further increase the equity, it's a possibility to spend more the next 3 years. On top of it, just in case we would find more income or somehow wouldn't manage to spend all the budget items, we promise, or we take the commitment, the Council takes the commitment that any profit of a year, let's say 18, we would end up with a profit unexpectedly, we would immediately invest it in the following year. So it's a clear message. We don't want to further increase the fortune, but we want to keep it at the level of 2015, which was 255 million, and which allows us to get at least 5 million financial income every year. So this is a basic Council decision which I think should be appreciated by the members. Now quickly going through the figures, and again this is a summary. You have received the detail where you can find all the details how those amounts are composed of, who are the TVs, who contribute to us, who are the advertising incomes coming from, and what are other incomes as well as the Olympic Winter Games. Now we have a rather stable situation for the last few years. As you can see, the TV income goes from 16.9 to 19.8, 17.8. One of the reasons that the uneven year is always a little bit better because we have the World Team Trophy, which is a very interesting event, not only for the skating, but also financially. Advertising, we are optimistic to slowly increase. Other incomes are sporadic incomes we get from the Olympic Committee, from winter sports, from development sources. And then the Olympic Winter Games, which are based on what we know from Sochi, because we don't have the figures yet or the commitment from the International Olympic Committee, how much we will receive for Pyeongchang. The indication was about the same as Sochi, but we are not sure yet, so hopefully it will be at least this 9.0 you already saw for the financial statements 16-17. Now this is a chart which tells you where the money for TV, and I say only TV, is coming from. So you see that Asia now has become the most important source of TV income. And we have to grateful especially to Japan, who is really the biggest contributor. Europe is stable, and North America over the last 5 to 10 years has been stable also after having been the big provider in the past. So we have a rather stable situation over the past years in terms of TV and media income. Now, how we spend the money. This is the part which goes directly to you, to those who organize events or participate in events. We have the contribution to championships or other ISU events, and these contributions are composed of contributions to the organizing member. There are also contributions to the participating members. There are indirect contributions in form of, for example, we pay the result service, we pay the medals, we pay some kind of insurance, we pay the event coordination team. So these are all within this contribution to championships, other ISU events. So you see it's between 16 and 17 million every year which go to events directly. In this part is a new item for about 1 million the council decided, especially for the series where often we have difficulties to find organizing members, which we call targeted contribution, meaning sometimes it's tough to find a host broadcaster, it's tough to promote the event, we have a sponsor, but to activate the sponsorship we need some money. So this is money normally an organizer would spend by himself, but the ISU will, on a very selective way, try to help organizers in the future better than in the past through those targeted contributions. Then we have the prize money, again, between championships and ISU events. And you see it's about a little bit more than 5 million, and it increases a little bit in 19 and 20. And the increase is mostly in the 3 major championships, namely the World Figure Skating, the single distance speed skating, and the World Short Track, is to send a clear signal. These are the most important events we have. And there we want to give all possible incentives to the skaters that they participate, because this is our capital for sponsors, for TVs. If the best skaters do not come, we are in trouble. So among others, we increased the prize money of those events. If it would be possible in the future, obviously we would love to increase it further, but time being, we propose an increase on those championships. Now this gives you the total of the money going directly to events, which you can see it's between 21 and 23 million francs every year, and I think that's a quite significant amount. Development program. Again, we have the same categories as we showed for the financial statements, the development projects. Now, why is it a little bit decreasing over the years? Because the Council feels that if e-learning is successful, if centers of excellence will be successful, this should compensate maybe some projects going directly to members. But it doesn't mean that we spend less. If you look at the bottom line, you can see it's still more than we spent the last 2 years. The Council projects, still the same. There is talk about the short track series, maybe instead of the Danubia Star Class to do a junior series, but this is under work in progress. E-learning is a big project, and Centers of Excellence is a big project, but we have to learn by doing it, you know. In case e-learning or Centers of Excellence would not be as fast or as successful, obviously we would invest the money again in the development projects. So the most important figure, I would say, is the bottom line. And it's up to the Council's discretion to find out what's the best way to invest over the period of those 3 years. The contributions remain as in the past, but since the membership is growing, we budgeted a little bit more. I remind members that if you don't send your reports, you don't get the money. And you have 5 years according to Swiss law. If you don't do it in 5 years, we are sorry, it's gone. So amazingly, there are always some who apparently don't need some money. It's becoming less and less, but please just send us your annual reports, the prize money forms, and we were happy to send you the money. Operating expenses. Again, the same as Uli presented for the past. Why is 2018 high? It's because of the Olympic Games. We had many office holders traveling to Asia, and most of them don't come from Asia. We had a new situation where the IOC adopted a new system where they charge us whatever services they give us. So, for example, meeting rooms, tickets, lounges, transportation we use only for us, we have to pay. In the past, it was compensated with the money they paid us. So this budget item increases for 2018 because of the Olympic Games and because there is a Congress too. Otherwise, it's, I think, standard. The Council was very generous for seminars in 2018. As you know, there are important decisions to come in figure skating, +5, -5. Huge seminar in Frankfurt to come. In short track will be big meetings, speed skating, big seminars. So 2018 is a big amount included. And obviously, again, through e-learning, we hope to reduce the following years. Office building, same as in the past. We did some refurbishing, so you can say it's an expense, but at the same time it's an investment. I think the building was a very good investment, and if I would have had the money, I would have bought it, I can tell you. ISU Secretariat is increasing by the simple explanation that there is more and more tasks delegated to us. It's not that we ask for it, but it just coming. And on the other hand, you all have your jobs. It's a very competitive environment around the world, so volunteers are becoming more scarce than in the past. So more and more, the only way out is to send it to Lausanne, but the staff increases it accordingly. It's no miracle. But compared to other similar organizations, I think we can say we are still at the very low end of number of staff and cost. So this gives you the total of operating expenses, overhead sometimes, you call it overhead. So you see, 2018 will be hopefully the peak, and we try to reduce again 19 and 20. Which brings us to the operating result. So without yet counting the financial result, you see that if we would not have our financial incomes, we would end up with quite a substantial loss. And this spiral without the financial income would surely, slowly but surely reduce our fortune. So I think this operating result, please keep this in mind. It's a very important figure to know that our financial income, which is here, is so important. Thanks to this, we ended up mostly with profits. These 5 million net income from our bonds, they, for example, pay the whole prize money. So whatever investment you can say we should invest in skating, yes, but the benchmark is 5 million. And with 5 million, we pay prize money, for example. So this is very important to keep in mind. Again, the incomes by category, so you see how important this financial part has become, 13%, which is quite significant. And the most important part remains the television, followed by the Olympic Games and advertising. And I think this structure more or less will stay over the next decade, I would guess. Finally, the net profit loss of the year. So you see, we had the profit of 8.8 in 16-17, and now we spend it at least 8.2. There are a few proposals on the agenda, and if they're approved, might bring us to 8.8. For example, 4 continents, speed skating and short track, speed skating championships. So this fulfills the promise of the Council to compensate the profit of the past for the next 3 years. However, in the future, we cannot, if we want to keep this benchmark of 255 million and 5 million income, we have to find new incomes or we have to find new savings. But the next 3 years, that's the proposal, and that's still a rather positive message to give to you. Now, I come to the conclusions. The Congress has the decision-making power regarding any matter, and I quote Article 30, paragraph 21. So the Congress has the decision-making power regarding any matter, but shall normally execute that power by deciding upon principles and directions for developing the sport, and shall give to the Council, the Director General, and the sports directors, with the assistance of the technical committees and the Medical Commission, the power to decide on details. This principle has been respected by the ISU bodies and has served the ISU very well, because the budget reflects our activity. You can vote whatever you want. If there is no money to do it, you're in trouble. And the budget balances the big members, the so-called big members, who bring most income, who win most medals, who organize most events, with the so-called smaller members, but who bring the universality of Olympic movement to the ISU. So this is a very balancing act, also between figure skating and speed skating. So you have to be careful to have a fair distribution of the money to everybody. And this can only be done by a good cooperation, by principal decision of the Congress, and then let the Council, who you will elect, to deal with the details. Now, since this has served the ISU very well, I just want to mention that since I best can talk only about the time I witnessed this progress, since 1996, since then we have dramatically increased our activity. Now we have 45 events every year, either directly organized or financially supported by the ISU. We have a development program now of over 8 million a year. We have a very competitive, a very efficient anti-doping program. We have a good media presence. So many, many things the last 20 years have developed very positively. So with all ideas, criticism, or whatever, I think we are behind 20 years of very good development. And this is also reflected in the equity. In 1996, we had 27 million. Today, we have 263 million, bringing 5 million every year as secured income, regardless of ISU, regardless of sponsors, regardless of anything. The ladies and gentlemen in the front row, our honorary members, I think they can be very proud to have left us this legacy, and we should be thankful for their hard work. Now, this fortunate stability can also create an illusion of invulnerability, creating excessive optimism and leading to so-called group thinking. Now I quote the dictionary of group thinking, which means group thinking where members of a group try to minimize conflict and reach a consensus decision without critical evaluation of alternative viewpoints, by actively suppressing dissenting viewpoints, and most importantly, by isolating themselves from outside influences. So this comfort of having this fortune behind you brings along this danger. And there is one prominent example that happened in a country known for high quality, for management, good management, for safety, for punctuality and reliability. Switzerland. The airline Swissair is the best example of those virtues, and from 1946 to the late 1980s, Swissair management decisions were very careful, very cautious, and the approach to risk was very respectful. And such, Swissair won many best airline awards and earned excellent credit ratings, thanks to continued good financial incomes. At a certain point, they were labeled the flying bank. In the late 1980s, however, the new euphoric Swissair management was showing clear signs of those group thinking and overexpanded. Coupled with some external factors, like a crash of Swissair Flight 111 in 1998 and the September 11 terrorist attacks and the related economic downturn, all of a sudden Swissair got in trouble. Its stocks lost values nearly in free fall overnight, and on October 2, 2001, Swissair was grounded. Thanks to the Swiss federal government, Swissair was kept alive, and they had to change the name and was now Swiss International Airlines. However, it was purchased by Lufthansa in 2005. So this example shows how fast and apparently solid financial situation can end up in disaster. Now, the ISU does not have the ambition to become the skating bank, but mindful of some signs of feeling of invulnerability and increased reliance on the ISU's financial resources, we should be very, very vigilant that we don't experience the same troubles at Swissair. Now, this concludes my presentation. This presentation is done at the beginning of the Congress, so that whatever you debate during the week, you can keep this in mind, but the decision will be taken on Friday under agenda item number 20. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schmidt. Then, before moving to item number 12, the report by the legal advisors, I would like to suggest that we have a coffee break. I double-checked the coffee is ready outdoor. And then we come back here and move on to item 12 at 11 o'clock sharp.
Please take your seats.
Okay, I hope you enjoy the coffee break, and then we move on to item number 12, the report by the legal advisors. The floor is to Mrs. Pfister and Mr. Keislinger.
Can somebody help for the mic?
No. It's on? Okay. Again, dear Mr. President, members of the Council, Mr. Honorary President, honorary members, delegates, ISU Office Holders, ladies and gentlemen. When we delivered our last report 2 years ago in Dubrovnik, we were hoping for legally more silent and quiet times for the ISU ahead. But our hopes did not materialize, quite to the contrary. The 2 past years have continued to produce a remarkable increase of legal challenges of our federation, which led to an at times almost unmanageable workload. This concerns our purely advisory activities, but especially our involvement in litigation. We were frequently consulted by the President, the Council, the Director General, his staff, the technical committees, the sports directors, and the medical commission on a great variety of issues, reaching from questions related to the ISU statutes, commercial and employment contracts, the relationship between the ISU and the International Olympic Committee, the renewal and registration of ISU trademarks, etc. And then we were also part of several working groups of the Council. ISU statutes. Our work related thereto included lawyers' routine everyday business as well as tricky matters.
We were asked for guidance and advice on the correct construction and interpretation and application of specific ISU provisions, in particular regarding membership issues, clearance certificates, conflict of interest situations, but also sporting rules. Given the complexity of the ISU statutes, which have grown over many decades, during which they have been amended and modified numerous times, this is not always an easy task. But we believe that in our close cooperation with the responsible individuals and ISU bodies, we have always been able to find a more or less satisfactory solution. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said with respect to litigation involving our statutes. I will get back to this in a few minutes. As to the ISU statutes themselves, we were involved in the revision of the ISU anti-doping procedures, the ISU Code of Ethics, other legally relevant ISU communications, and the preparation of the councils and technical committees' proposals to this Congress. Under the addition to Article 30 of the Constitution, which you have adopted in 2016, the technical committees are required to submit their proposals to the legal advisors for preliminary review by November 15, preceding the Congress. And we are very pleased to report that from our point of view, this provision worked well and proved to be helpful. We are well aware that the input of legal people at times is felt to make life more difficult than it already is. But in the long term, it is certainly advisable and pays out to put proposals for rule changes in a legally sound form and shape from the outset, rather to have to struggle with them at a later stage. This can not always, but very often, also help to prevent unnecessary and unpleasant legal controversies, even court cases. We would like to take this opportunity to thank the technical committees and especially their chairs for their dedication and supportive and very fruitful cooperation. Contracts. We have also been involved in certain contractual matters. On one hand, we advised the handling, again, interpretation and construction of existing agreements, and on the other hand, reviewed draft contracts of various kinds, including employment and freelancer agreements, software licensing, and even accommodation contracts for the Olympic Winter Games. That was rather short. Now let's move onward to litigation. This reporting period was not only a busy one for the legal advisors, but we also made sure that the Disciplinary Commission was kept quite busy. First, doping cases. We had to file 4 statements of complaint to our DC for violations of the ISU anti-doping rules. 3 of them involved relatively minor, but 1 a very serious violation. You will hear the details in the report of the chair of the Disciplinary Commission. But just let us mention that the 1 very serious case was also the most difficult one from the legal point of view. The respective allegation of an anti-doping rule violation was based on the athlete biological passport that is on indirect evidence, which by its very nature is legally a very delicate matter. In the case at hand, our disciplinary commission did not consider the anomalies in the athlete's ABP to be sufficient evidence for an anti-doping rule violation, and the DC dismissed our complaint. While the ISU, upon careful consideration, decided to defer to the assessment of the disciplinary commission and not to further pursue the matter, WADA did file an appeal against this decision with CAS, where the matter is now pending. For the first time in its history, the ISU appealed against a decision on an anti-doping rule violation rendered not by our DC, but by the hearing body of an ISU member. The Russian Speed Skating Federation, following a decision of RUSADA, had imposed a suspension of only 3 months on a national level skater who had been tested positive at the National Short Track Championships following the application of medicine against colds and for treating sinusitis. RUSADA considered that the skater had no significant fault or negligence, but we could not agree with that determination. And within the framework of the World Anti-Doping Code, the ISU is responsible towards WADA to assure that the ISU anti-doping rules are correctly applied throughout the ISU sports, also on the national level. This encompasses surveillance of the treatment of anti-doping rule violations by the hearing bodies of the ISU members within their jurisdiction, and failure to meet this responsibility would render the ISU non-compliant under the World Anti-Doping Code. Because the finding of no significant fault or negligence in the said Russian case was in sharp contrast to similar cases which had been decided by our DC, and the 3 months suspension disproportionately low, we felt therefore urged to appeal against the RUSADA and Russian speed skating decisions with CAS. CAS has followed our main arguments, set aside the challenged decisions, and imposed upon the skater a sanction of 20 months instead of the 3. The by far biggest challenge in the area of doping we faced over the past 2 years was the follow-up of the allegations of Russian state-run doping and manipulations of the doping control process during the Sochi Olympic Winter Games. These allegations were brought forward by the former director of the Moscow WADA-accredited anti-doping lab, and based on his information, WADA mandated Professor McLaren to conduct respective investigations as a so-called independent person. In his final report, which was published in December 2016, McLaren confirmed the existence of systematic doping and identified athletes who might have benefited from the manipulation of doping controls during the Sochi Games. Following this report, the IOC established 2 commissions, one, the Schmid Commission, which was given the task to further investigate on the alleged doping system in Russia, whereas the duty of the second, the Oswald Commission, was to serve as the AOC Disciplinary Commission and to conduct the disciplinary proceedings for alleged anti-doping rule violations against individual Russian athletes, which the AOC had initiated based on the McLaren report. After months of silence, things became very hectic all of a sudden last fall, when the Oswald Commission, on very short notice, held oral hearings against 43 athletes, among them 4 speed skaters. The ISU was invited to attend the hearings involving the skaters. These hearings took place on the 6th of November last year. While in our view, the hearings did not produce any reliable evidence for individual anti-doping rule violations whatsoever, the Oswald Commission concluded differently. It found all 4 skaters to have committed anti-doping rule violations and immediately suspended them from all future Olympic Winter Games, just like 36 athletes from other sports. The operative parts of the 2 first verdicts against skaters were issued only 3 weeks after the hearings. And this created a very difficult and rather unpleasant situation for the ISU. On one hand, there was the IOC, which expected the international federations to follow suit and to suspend the athletes provisionally at once, also for other competitions at the Olympic Games. That is a provisional suspension before the IF's own anti-doping hearing bodies would even take place. On the other hand, there were our serious legal concerns on the verdicts of the Oswald Commission, above all, the lack of any reliable evidence for individual anti-doping rule violations, which concerns were shared by some legal advisors of other AFs too. In other words, the ISU was torn between its desire to show loyalty to the IOC and its legal and moral duty to adhere to the fundamental principles of law and to protect athletes from injustice. It is the duty and privilege of lawyers to focus solely on the rule of law and to assess legal matters without regards neither to politics nor public opinion. Given our firm conviction that there was simply no valid evidence for individual anti-doping rule violation in the case of the 4 speed skaters, and based on our duty to respect the rules of deontology of our profession, we advised the Council not to impose provisional suspensions and to reanalyze the situation once the full reasoned decisions of the Oswald Commissions would be available. The first such full decision was delivered on the 22nd of December last year. We studied it carefully, but did not see anything which would have destroyed our concerns regarding the lack of evidence, and we could still not find a solid legal basis for filing statements of complaint against the 4 speed skaters with the ISU Disciplinary Commission. We are grateful to the Council for having followed our advice and were satisfied that the decision neither to provisionally suspend nor to bring the 4 speed skaters before our DC proved justified in the beginning of 2018. Except for 1 bobsledder, all other 39 athletes who had been found guilty by the Oswald Commission appealed to CAS. CAS held its hearing during the last week of January and rendered the operative part of its decisions on the 1st of February. That means just a few days before the beginning of the Pyeongchang Games. In 28 cases, CAS set aside the decisions of the IOC Disciplinary Commission, and in 11 cases it did so partially. Much to our regret, the CAS decisions did not open the door for the 4 concerned skaters to participate in the Pyeongchang Olympic Winter Games, because the IOC decided to admit only specifically selected athletes from Russia, and for reasons still unknown to us, the 4 skaters were not among the invited ones. Yet, we simply have to accept that the final decision as to who may participate in Olympic Games is not for the ISU, but for the IOC to take. 2 full CAS model decisions, full means including reasoning, were published recently. One concerning a cross-country skier whose appeal was fully granted, like the 4 speed skaters, and the other one was about a bobsledder whose appeal had been partly granted, and these publications took place in April. After the publication, the IOC filed appeals with the Swiss Federal Court, and the respective proceedings are, of course, still pending. But according to the Swiss Code on International Private Law, the review of the Federal Court, apart from violations of the ordre public, public order, is limited to procedural questions, such as wrong composition of the arbitration tribunal. And reading the full decisions of CAS, it is hard for us to see any ground on which the IOC appeals could be upheld. Of course, only the future will tell, but regardless of the eventual outcome of these appeals, all in all, the handling of the Sochi doping matter is certainly not a moment of glory for the IOC. Let's move to other disciplinary matters. Since the last Congress, we unfortunately had to file an unusually high number of 7 statements of complaint to the Disciplinary Commission for violations of the ISU Code of Ethics. It is worrisome that 5 of them involved misconduct and the violation of officials' duties of figure skating judges and referees, in 2 instances through judging with obvious national bias. Maintaining the high ethical standards is a must and must be a primary concern for the ISU. Apart from assuring fair competitions and fair results, this is also about safeguarding the reputation of the ISU within the skating family, the world of sports, but also the public at large. As in all sports where the athlete's performance cannot be measured by clocks, meters, or the number of goals hit, officials are the Achilles heel of figure skating, which needs to be nursed with utmost care. The two remaining Code of Ethics cases are not less serious. We are sad to report that we had to accuse the former ISU Development Coordinator and the former office holder of the Hungarian National Skating Federation for having seriously defrauded the ISU through deceptive and illegal business practices. This has not only caused total loss of trust in the individuals concerned, but also caused substantial financial damage, which the ISU, of course, will try to recover. The details of all these cases on the Code of Ethics will also be reported by the Chair of the Disciplinary Commission. But as to the Code of Ethics, one important point remains to be mentioned. 2 years ago, we informed that a speed skater had appealed to CAS against a 1-year suspension imposed on him by the DC for bodily violence against a coach at the occasion of an ISU World Cup event at Insel. Due to injury, the skater had not competed, but was present as a team attendant. The altercation did not happen at the ice rink, but during the night on a parking lot. Due to its own administration of evidence, CAS, in its decision of September 2016, reduced the sanction from 1 year to 6 months of suspension. But what is far more important for the ISU as a matter of principle is the following. CAS restrained from defining the exact scope of application of the ISU Code of Ethics. But it held the fact that the presence of the skater in Insel was related to an ISU event to be sufficient to consider his offense to have been committed during participation in an ISU activity. Therefore, CAS confirmed that the skater was subject to the Code of Ethics and the jurisdiction of the ISU Disciplinary Commission. The important message to the athletes thus is, not only athletes, only officials, by the way, etc., your responsibility to adhere to the Code of Ethics is not limited to your behavior while competing and or being at an ice rink, but reaches far beyond. Last chapter, litigation before state courts and other public authorities. No report of the ISU legal advisors would ever seem complete without the Pechstein case, whose origins go back 9 years. For those who are not so well informed, based on anomalies in her long-term blood profile, the DC had suspended the German speed skater for 2 years due to an anti-doping rule violation. Those of you who were present in Dubrovnik might remember that we were pleased to inform that the Deutsche Bundesgerichtshof, a very high German court, in its decision, which was rendered during the last Congress, had overturned the ruling of the Oberlandesgericht Munich, second instance court, and had rejected Ms. Pechstein's damage action against the ISU. One would have believed and certainly wished that this would put to a final rest the Pechstein matter, but it did not. The skater appealed to the German Constitutional Court, Bundesverfassungsgericht, where the case is now still pending. However, time being, this latest appeal does not bother and worry us very much. In fact, the ISU is not a party to the respective proceedings because the appeal is directed against the Bundesgerichtshof, so the lower court. So we do not have and cannot do more than lay back, await the award, and hope that the German Constitutional Court will upheld the challenge decision. While, of course, the outcome of court cases is never certain, there is one thing we can assure you: you will hear the name Pechstein again in 2 years. Last case. This is really the most unpleasant and disappointing part of our report. It is about the case the ISU has with the EU Commission. As we informed 2 years ago, a complaint was brought against the ISU on its face by two Dutch speed skaters, but in reality initiated by a Korean betting company. And they claimed that the ISU eligibility rules violate EU competition law by restraining competition in the area of organizing speed skating events. This case has been keeping us extremely busy since the last Congress, and much to our regret is continuing to do so. The Commission and the case team, whose motivation seems to be much more political than legal, has during the entire reporting period been overwhelming us with numerous requests for additional information and answers to a panoply of questions, thereby raising new issues on concerns all the time. While the Commission or the case team usually took weeks or months to react to our submissions, it constantly set unreasonably short deadlines of often between 1 and 3 days for the ISU to answer its requests, and showed a more than inconvenient preference for setting such deadlines on Friday late afternoons, right before Christmas, New Year, or Easter. But in our efforts to reach an agreement with the Commission through the so-called commitments process, we faithfully fulfilled all requests within those deadlines, again and again proved the ISU's willingness to cooperate and to offer compromises wherever possible, thereby going close to the red line. Yet, all these efforts were in vain. On the 8th of December last year, the EU Commission, as sort of a premature Christmas gift, rendered its decision holding that the ISU eligibility rules violate EU competition law and have been doing so ever since 1998. This was when the ISU Congress adopted redrafted eligibility rules. The EU decision shows, if any at all, little understanding for the role, the particularities and the functioning of sports and the respective international federations by treating the ISU more or less like an ordinary commercial enterprise whose aim is nothing but maximizing its financial profits. In particular, the EU Commission failed to acknowledge the role of the IFs in the development of sports, the importance of having universally valid rules of the game applied worldwide, the need for uniform application of sporting rules through CAS, the fact that there is hardly any market for the organization of speed skating competitions because most of them cannot generate any profit but rather need to be subsidized. And last but not least, the immense risks betting activities pose to the integrity of sports competitions. After careful analysis of the very long decision of the EU Commission, we concluded that it is not only highly detrimental to the ISU, but also suffers from substantial legal flaws. Therefore, we recommended to the Council to appeal it, despite knowing that to prevail in a competition case before the European courts is definitely not a piece of cake. The Council followed this recommendation and the appeal was filed to the European General Court on the 22nd of February, still during the Pyeongchang Games, and this appeal was filed by one of the most experienced and renowned Brussels competition lawyers, whom the ISU retained specifically for the appeals procedure. Of course, the appeal has not yet been decided and will probably remain pending still for quite some time. There was one positive aspect in the truly disappointing decision of the EU Commission, which actually let us doubt whether in all the 3 years during the procedure the Commission had dealt and negotiated in good faith. This positive point is that the Commission did not impose any fine upon the ISU for what it considers past wrong. Yet even this gift was quite poisoned in that the decision set a deadline of 90 days, just 3 months, for the ISU to implement measures that bring the alleged infringement of EU competition law to an effective end. In case of missing this great period, the ISU would have to pay a daily fine of 5% of the ISU's daily turnover of the previous business year. At first sight, this threat might not seem so terrible and rather manageable by simply pending the outcome of the appeal, complying with the terms of the Commission's decision. But unfortunately, it's not as easy as that. The main problem is that the decision itself does not specify which remedies the Commission requests in order to put to an end what it considers an illegal situation. This left us no choice than to enter into still further negotiations with the Commission in the so-called remedies process. And once more, as had to be feared from our previous experience, these negotiations were more than difficult. While we had felt that the case team had treated us and the ISU with little respect during the failed commitment process, it now even increased its pressure on the ISU in a rather doubtful manner. Being well aware of the precarious situation in which the ISU would be if no agreement on the remedies can be reached, the Commission tried to impose on us more and more restrictions related to our eligibility rules, which included even topics that were clearly out of the subject matter of the EU decision of last December. We fought this with all available means and arguments. We were partly successful, but in the end, we still had to agree to certain further compromises, which we actually consider as questionable and risky. But balancing these risks against the one of being imposed fines in an amount which would sooner or later even endanger the very existence of the ISU, we had not much of a choice. The result of all this is a heavily modified ISU communication on open international competitions, which was just published recently, and also the proposals to this Congress related to Rule 102. We are sorry to say that with respect to these proposals, this Congress, you do not have much of a choice either, because to reject them would actually mean to put the ISU in jeopardy. Time being, all we can do is hope for a positive outcome of the appeal, which would then allow to modify the relevant ISU rules again, undoing those changes which need now to be implemented under the pressure of the Commission's threatened penalty, despite having negative effects on the well-functioning and the fulfillment of the objectives and missions of the ISU. We definitely hope to have better news in our next report in 2 years. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pfister, Ms. Geislinger. Questions? No questions, then, okay. Mr. Didier Gallagher.
Good morning, everybody, Mr. President, dear legal advisors, dear friends. I would like to come back to the last item with the European General Commission and try to understand the stakes for the ISU, but also for the European members, and why not for each of us worldwide. For my perfect understanding, and to be concrete, does that mean that in case that the ISU would lose this kind of battle with the European Commission, that tomorrow any private company will be, as an example, in a position to organize the next day of the World Championship, the revenge of the World Championship of this event next door? Is that what it means? Does that mean that if the ISU would lose, that there would be some declination for the members? As an example, if French Federation would organize the French National, the next day some private company could gather the top athletes and organize the revenge of my national event? If this was the case, I can imagine the potential loss of marketing rights, the new interest of TV for smaller format of events. And that would not include the necessary, of course, universality of the sport, but would mainly be based on lucrative profit. Is that what it means? So in conclusion, I would like to know if we, the members, on the same boat than the ISU, of course, because there is no ISU without members, are we going to face the most important crisis in European sport since the Bosman judgment in soccer. I understood how precarious the situation is and the compromise you are trying to propose, but what are our chances finally? Thank you.
Mr. Keisling.
Okay. Mr. President, actually the procedure as it has come to an end through the remedies makes it clear that any applicant who wants to organize any competition in the sphere of the International Skating Union needs to use the application system set up by the communication we referred to. And this is now under stable relations. That means that if you take the rules and if you approve to the rules change with regard to Rule 102, if you look into the communication of the Council just communicated, then you know the conditions all such third-party applicants need to fulfill. The Council needs to develop the respective policy and practice, but be sure the Council will do its utmost to do the best for the ISU in this context.
Okay, thank you very much. It's just a report. We will have the proposals later in the agenda, Didier. Then we move on to, thank you very much again, to legal advisors. If there are no more questions, then we move on to item number 13, Director General.
Thank you. Item 13, questions and objections and appeals, if any, against decisions of the Council, the Director General, the sports directors and technical committees during the period since the last Congress not otherwise acted upon by the Disciplinary Commission, including approval of ISU communications requiring continued validity in line with Article 28, Paragraph 3. So there are two parts to it. First, do you have any question or objection or appeal against the decisions of the Council, the Director General, the sports directors and technical committees during the period since the last Congress? This is the first question. Anybody? No question? No appeal? In this case, this has been concluded. Now we come to the second part, to the communications requiring continued validity. In the agenda, which in the meantime has arrived also in paper form, you find the communications which need such continued validity listed. Now I ask the operators to publish those communications which we issued since April 30th, when the agenda was published, which of course all of those also need to have continued validity. So among those you see on the screen and among those communications you have in the agenda, is there any communication you have a problem with? Then that's the moment to speak. Anybody? In this case, all the communications in the agenda, sorry, there's somebody.
Sorry for the delay there. Regarding 1954, around the short track speed skating, I'm a big proponent of the general direction of this. I don't have the full communication in front of me, but I really want to just change about the flag on the front and the back. I like that for a lot of nations. It does not work very well for the United States. And I would like to suggest we change that from shall to may, the language. So you have an option to still represent the country without necessarily having the full flag on the front and the back.
Maybe where is Hugo Herrnhof, our specialist in this field? Can you comment on this?
Hugo Hernhoff, ISU Speed Skating Sports Director, Mr. President. This initiative has started a couple of years ago, and it was part of a very big project of presenting our short track sport in a better way. So the main issue or main concern in the past was that in athletes racing inside a big group, it was extremely difficult to identify the athletes and the different countries. So we had mid-blue, dark blue, black racing suit, and it was extremely difficult for spectators, for media in particular, and the TV commentators to clearly identify the athletes during the competition. So the idea was to clearly identify the participating countries with showing the country flag on the racing suit. We issued, therefore, besides other initiatives, a communication that is asking the members to show the national flag on the short track racing suit. The result of this outcome was extremely well. The feedback we got from media, from spectators, was excellent, and it helped a lot the athletes and the sport to be presented in a better way. All the racing suits are approved by an ISU commission to be sure that they're in line with these recommendations and to show the sport and the athletes in the proper manner. I think, and I'm convinced, that this initiative was a great step forward for our sport, for the presentation of our sport worldwide and in a major event, including the Olympic Winter Games. I know we had several discussions with US speed skating in the past concerning this matter, but we never had any major discussion with any other member of the ISU. And I clearly, and I'm quite sure, that this was very welcomed by most of the members. And I'm also very sure and convinced about the fact that this is giving an additional or continues to give a high important image to our sport. So I suggest to stay with what is written in this communication. Thank you.
Vice President Ispili, please.
Dear delegates, and especially the USA delegates, the purpose of this decision item on the agenda is to ensure the continued validity of this communication, which includes a lot of other items, as just pointed out both by you and by Hugo Hernhoff. Moreover, there are proposals at this Congress that would probably lead to an update of this communication. So it will be reviewed in its entirety, and I would think most likely be replaced by an updated version shortly. I'm not now saying anything about the particular item that you raised, but so that everyone understands, if we would not accept the continued validity, also the other measures in this communication would not be valid in this interim period, and this we want to avoid.
Okay, thank you very much. More questions regarding this item regarding the communications? If not, then...
But we still have to come to a conclusion.
Yeah, then we can conclude that these are they have the continuing validity. Yeah? Then we move to item number 14, the report of the Chair of the Disciplinary Commission, Mr. Waldeck.
To the technique. Do you hear me? Could you please?
Can somebody help to get the right presentation? Unless you want to listen once more to the finances.
It's not on the screen. Oh, there it is. Dear Mr. President, dear Council members, dear delegates, in 2015 and 2016, our Commission members Egbert Schmidt and Fred Benjamin passed away. At the Congress 2016 in Dubrovnik, one candidate for the speed skating branch was elected, Mr. Albert Hazelhoff from the Netherlands. The remaining position for the speed skating branch was filled by Mr. Jean-François Monnet from Canada by appointment of the ISU Council in September 2016. Since then, the Disciplinary Commission has been filled as provided in Article 25 of the Constitution, with 2 members experienced in figure skating, 2 members from the speed skating branch, and the chair. This is the overview of our cases since 2016. We have decided 14 cases in total, 8 from the figure skating branch, 2 from speed skating and 4 from short track. The decisions in 2 further cases are about to be rendered shortly. I come to the first case in 2016, ISU versus Whitmore. In this case, our decision was issued prior to the Congress 2016. We had decided that the defendant violated the ISU Code of Ethics by committing a malicious bodily injury. A suspension of 1 year from participation in all ISU activities was imposed on the defendant. The defendant appealed against the decision of the Disciplinary Commission at the Court of Arbitration for Sports. The case there was still pending during the Congress and was finished by the CAS in September 2016. CAS followed our decisions regarding the jurisdiction and the violation of the Code of Ethics. CAS only reduced the sanction from 1 year's suspension to a suspension of 6 months. The second case in 2016, KNSB versus Geitenbeck. It was a Dutch figure skater, entered the Sarajevo Open 2016 senior men's competition without being appointed by his member federation KNSB. The organizer allowed him to skate out of competition, and his start was approved by the referee. The Dutch Federation complained that international competitions may be entered only by competitors who belong to a member and for whom the entry can only be made through the respective member. We had decided the case prior to the Congress 2016 by reprimanding the skater. Neither the skater nor KNSB appealed against the decision. The third case in 2016 was ISU versus Yiling Kim. The alleged offender was a 13-year-old member of Korea Skating Union who competed in the ladies' event on the ISU Junior Grand Prix of Figure Skating. She was selected for anti-doping testing after completion of the ladies' event, but neither the doping control officer nor the chaperone could find her at the ice rink. Later, she could finally be notified of her doping control selection. The results of the test were negative, but it was not one of the usual cases of a missed doping control test. We found the skater was 13 years old, and the question for us was whether the anti-doping rules also apply to minors. We found that the ISU anti-doping rules do not specifically deal with the issue of age. The question in this case was, who is responsible for the violation of the anti-doping rules? The underage skater, or the parents, or the coach, or the team leader? We decided that the qualification of an athlete as a minor is not a circumstance that could exempt them from being subject to the anti-doping regulations that other participants in the competition are bound by. However, considering her very young age, her lack of experience in anti-doping matters, and the fact that it was her first violation, we found that a reprimand was the adequate sanction. The first case in 2017 was the case ISU versus Gorodyanov. In this case, Mr. Gorodyanov officiated as referee in a pair skating competition in Bratislava. During the pairs free skating program, judge number 1 and judge number 2 started an enduring talk during and after the performance of a British couple. Their conversation disturbed not only the neighboring judge number 3, but also the following judges number 4 to 6. The referee did not prohibit the discussion, but instead joined in the conversation and started another conversation with judge number 7. At the concluding round table discussion, 4 judges complained about the talking during the competition and asked the referee to record the event in his report. But the referee ignored their request. Mr. Gorodyanov violated the duties of a referee as he did not prohibit the talking during the competition. Instead, he joined in the discussion and even ignored this event in both the round table discussion and his report. He was suspended as judge and referee for 6 months. The cases 2 and 3 in 2017 are related to the case Gorodyanov. Mr. Babenko was judge number 1 and Ms. Krautsienen judge number 2 at the pairs event in Bratislava, where they talked loudly on the judges' stands and disturbed the other judges. We reprimanded Ms. Krautsienen for violating the duties of judges, but Mr. Babenko had already been suspended for 3 years in 1999 for communicating about the placement of skaters with another judge during the World Championship pairs event. We therefore suspended Mr. Babenko for his behavior in Bratislava for 6 months, also taking into account his previous sanction. The next case is also related to the case Gorodyanov. Mr. Prince from the Netherlands was the technical controller of the pairs event in Bratislava. Mr. Gorodyanov filed a complaint against Mr. Prince and accused him of having violated his duties as a technical controller by not reporting and referring the complaint by the 4 judges about the behavior of judge number 1 and number 2 directly to Mr. Gorodyanov as the referee of the event. Mr. Gorodyanov accused Mr. Prince of having exceeded his official duties as a technical controller and taking on part of the referee's duty by telling other judges what to do instead of directing them immediately to the referee. We found that the 4 judges had no better choice available to them other than to seek advice from Mr. Prince, who recommended raising the issue at the round table discussion. Mr. Prince had not violated his duties as technical controller, thus we dismissed the complaint. The 4th case in 2017 is the case ISU versus Park. Ms. Park participated at the ISU World Cup speed skating in Harbin, China in November 2016. She was tested in competition after she had finished the ladies' mass start. The National Anti-Doping Laboratory Beijing reported the adverse analytical finding for clenbuterol. Upon question by the ISU, the laboratory also confirmed that it was likely that this concentration of clenbuterol came from food contamination. The Korea Skating Union, together with Ms. Park, filed a letter with the ISU where they mentioned that there have been many cases of meat contamination reported from China and that the ISU was aware of this. They advised that Ms. Park only ate meals in the official competition hotel during the Harbour World Cup and confirmed that she had never consumed any doping-related medicine or used other methods. The ISU was willing to accept the explanation given by the skater and her federation that the prohibited substance results came from food contamination. The ISU could not find any fault or negligence by Ms. Park, but due to the fact that an anti-doping rule violation had been committed in connection with an in-competition test, Article 9 of the ISU anti-doping rules apply, which automatically leads to disqualification of the results obtained in that competition, with all resulting consequences, including forfeiture of any medals, points and prizes. The next case, case number 6 in 2016, is called NN, in Latin non nominatus. That means it's anonymous. This case concerned a complaint by the ISU following an adverse result in the defendant's biological passport. Following Article 8 of the ISU anti-doping rules, a skater has the right to have their name and details suppressed when a complaint is dismissed. Therefore, in this report, we will only make very general comments. The defendant showed unusual ratios of reticulocytes and hemoglobin in their blood profile. These ratios occurred in samples taken around the time of several competitions. The inference was that these results were due to the effect of a blood doping with EPO. The defendant requested an oral hearing. Expert evidence was heard from WADA, ISU, and from experts called for the defendant. The defendant raised the possibility of an innocent explanation for the unusual blood profiling results and maintained that no attempted use or a use of prohibited substance or method had taken place. They denied a violation and sought to rebut the ISU complaint with evidence of a unique situation. All parties agreed that 2 of the blood results were atypical and required explanation. What was in dispute was whether or not there was an underlying unique cause for the results that could offer an explanation alternative to EPO stimulation. Having heard all evidence, our panel found that the defendant had raised a reasonable defense on the balance of probabilities. Therefore, we dismissed the complaint. The ISU has declined to appeal this decision. However, WADA has appealed against the decision of the Disciplinary Commission to the Court of Arbitration for Sports. Therefore, the case is still pending. Case number 7 in 2017, again, Gorodyanov. Mr. Gorodyanov served as a judge on the ice dance panels for the junior category in free dance and for the senior category in short dance at the 2017 Golden Spin competition in Zagreb. While officiating on judges' panel, he looked at the screens of his neighboring judges on the right and on the left sides after putting in his own marks. These actions were witnessed by the referees of the ice dance event and of the men's event, who were sitting behind the judges' stand and recorded the incident on video. Immediately after the statement of complaint was filed with Mr. Gorodyanov, he sent a letter to the ISU President and ISU Vice President figure skating and asked to be removed from the list of referees and judges. He confirmed that he would not ask for a reinstatement as judge or referee within at least 3 years. In these circumstances, the Disciplinary Commission terminated the proceedings against Mr. Gorodyanov without sanction, because a final decision would not have exceeded a suspension of 3 years. The first case in 2018 was a case against Ms. Ezen from Turkey. Ms. Ezen served as judge at the Free Ice Dance panel at the 2017 Golden Spin competition in Zagreb, again the same competition. The referee of the ice dance event reported that Ms. Ezen had brought a folder to the judges' stands which contained a list of competitors who had entered the ice dance competition. Behind the names of the competitors, Ms. Ezen had written marks for the components, allegedly during the practice sessions, probably based on the ISU World Ranking List. It was contested whether Ms. Ezen has used these previously prepared marks while judging. The referee had not noticed the paper with the handwritten marks on her desk beside the judges' marking sheets during the competition, but we found that Ms. Ezen had violated the rule that judges must base their marks and decisions only on the current performance and must not be influenced by past performances. Therefore, we suspended Ms. Ezen for 6 months in her function as judge. The cases 2018, number 3 and number 4 are combined together. These two cases are based on the same incident. Mr. Schalak was appointed as ISU Development Coordinator until June 2016. Mr. Schalak hired Mr. Darasch as Project Manager and Coordinator for organizing a short-track speed skating development camp in Budapest in January 2016. Mr. Darasch was at that time employed as short-track and speed skating director of the Hungarian National Skating Federation. On April 2015, the Hungarian National Skating Federation, represented by Mr. Darasch, submitted its application to organize the development camp in Budapest. The application contained a budget of 121,000 Swiss francs and requested an ISU contribution of 108,000 Swiss francs. During a meeting in Amsterdam on May 2015, Mr. Schalak, in his function as ISU Development Coordinator, recommended to the ISU Sports Director Speed Skating and to the Vice President Speed Skating that they approve the event and the budget, relying on the expertise, experience, and knowledge of the Hungarian market and due diligence of Mr. Schalak. Vice President Dijkema approved the project in good faith. 80% of the ISU contribution, that is 86,000 Swiss francs, was paid upon Mr. Schalak's instruction. The remaining 20% was supposed to be paid upon completion of the development camp. After the Budapest training camp was concluded in February 2016, Mr. Schalak approved Mr. Darasch's final report, including a financial report and a summary of the allegedly total cost spent in the amount of 132,000 Swiss francs, together with the request to have the not yet paid part of the ISU contribution transferred to the Hungarian Federation as soon as possible. The ISU noticed that in the final report, accommodation costs had been reported as medical camp duty costs and vice versa, which raised its suspicion. Therefore, ISU started an internal review of the training camp and the alleged costs related thereto. Based on these findings, ISU decided to have an audit of the development project performed and engaged Deloitte for the purpose of reviewing respective transactions. Based on the findings of the Deloitte report, the unsupported and potentially inflated costs amounted 51,000 Swiss francs. Mr. Schallak was responsible for numerous irregularities related to ISU development project in Budapest. He approved on behalf of the ISU a totally non-transparent and completely false, fabricated budget. In particular, he failed to inform the ISU that the Hungarian Federation would outsource the event organization to Mr. Darasz and his family-related company, despite the obvious conflict of interest. At the same time, the budget approved by him was based on grossly overestimated items, in particular ICE rental fees, medical services and accommodation. Neither Mr. Schallak nor Mr. Darasz have contested the allegations. This is to point out. They have only challenged the jurisdiction of the Disciplinary Commission. We have excluded for life both Mr. Schallak and Mr. Darasz from all ISU activities and sentenced them jointly to reimburse the cost of the audit and proceedings, which amounts to 74,000 Swiss francs. It was not within the jurisdiction of the Disciplinary Commission to prosecute the elements of fraud or embezzlement or to claim for the civil damages that Mr. Schallak and Mr. Darasz have caused. Case number 5 in 2018, ISU versus Sin. Mr. Sin is a short-track skater from South Korea. He belonged to the ISU registered testing pool. He committed 3 anti-doping whereabouts failures within 12 months. Thus, Mr. Sin had violated Article 2 of the ISU anti-doping rules. According to Article 10 of the ISU anti-doping rules, the period of ineligibility shall be 2 years, subject to reduction down to a minimum of 1 year, depending on the skater's degree of fault. We have taken into consideration that Mr. Sin was a person in military service under military rule with restricted availability. He was included in the ISU registered testing pool for the first time. He was inexperienced in handling the Adams system, and the failures had been committed at an early stage of use of the system. Therefore, we decided to reduce the period of ineligibility to 1 year. As you can see on our overview, there are 2 cases left to decide. Case number 2 and number 6 out of 2018. Our Commission will deliberate these cases in Seville, and we are going to render the decision after the Congress in due time. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Waldeck. Then we move to item number 15, the Director General.
Thank you. Item number 15, report by the auditors with respect to the financial administration of the ISU since the last Congress, the approval thereof, and the discharge of the Council, Director General, Treasurer, and Sports Directors with respect thereto. Now, Uli Linder, the Treasurer, made a presentation made a summary presentation of the financial results 16-17, and we have posted on the website, and we have made available here the 2 reports from the auditors, 16 and 17. We have Mr. Gregor Weber here from BDO, who, if necessary, is available for questions, but only questions in regard to the process of the audit. So he will not respond to the figures, but he will explain, if somebody would need explanations, how the audit was performed. So are there any questions? Do you approve the two financial statements, 16 and 17, and discharge the Council, Director General, Treasurer, and Sports Directors? Then please vote yes. Somebody against? Abstained? Therefore, it has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schmidt. Then we move to item number 16, objections to nominations for elected positions. So the question is now if there are objections regarding the nominations for the elections. If not, then we have concluded the agenda for this morning. We have the workshops at 2 p.m. The workshop for figure will take place here, and the workshop for speed next door. And then we come back here at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Thank you very much all. Enjoy your lunch and see you later this afternoon.